Test. 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 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Helps if I turn.
Prayer for dedication of the Unitarian Fellowship House at Baton Rouge. We who are gathered within these walls dedicate this house to the best we know in our world and in ourselves. At this high moment, standing between two eternities, we remember that we are the heirs of the ages. We feel that all the past is part of us. We realize that all the future is germinating in this moment, and we pledge to our children and theirs our loyalty to truth and growth. May every friendship here engendered lead to the greater love and joy. May every friendship here engendered lead to greater love and joy. May every friendship here engendered lead to greater love and joy. May every argument advanced lead to deeper understanding. May all the wealth we invest in this enterprise and in every service rendered be given with a willing heart. In this spirit, we dedicate this house to the service of love and truth.
Let's go ahead and sing. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Would you join me in a moment of prayer and reflection? The God that we know when we see love and hope and justice and kindness, mystery believed in and not, hold us on this day as we gather for worship. A day where we worry about our state and a day where we worry about the state of the world. May peace find its way to all of the war-torn countries. May peace find its way here, not through pacifying resistance, but through true justice and compassion. May all who are gathered here today find joy, find love, and know they are worthy. Amen.
Never cry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by.
So we're still figuring out whether to stand or sit when we do that prayer in the middle of the hymn thing. So I don't know. You should do what you feel called to do. Welcome to the Unitarian Church. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. I'm very pleased to welcome you today. Reverend Chris, your other minister, is on a well-deserved vacation/study leave where he was just at the installation of a minister, and now he's enjoying women's volleyball in Madison, Wisconsin, which is apparently the mecca of women's volleyball. But he is there. We have so many announcements, I don't know what to do. So let's pretend they're all condensed into... Remember, when doing announcements, we can only do 3, because anything more than that, the congregation usually doesn't hear. Not you particularly. This is a generalized rule. So I'm going to take more than 3 and pretend it's 3. Good? Good. First, online people, we are glad you are with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please enjoy this service. Type into the chat so we know you're there. During middle hour, in room 5, which is as far away from us as possible, directly back, there is a discussion on Samhain. I'm looking for Julie Richard's not here yet. I was going to have her wave. Samhain is a Wiccan ritual that is... Did I mess it up?
Samhain is
Yes.
a pagan ritual.
Okay, I got it right. Salvatore, when you walk in, would you wave at everyone? All right, that's Salvatore. If you want to know where room 5 is, he'll tell you after this. In room 6, we are going to have a discussion of our theological house, which is a really cool theological tool that transformed the way I understood Unitarian Universalism. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, that's in room 6. And in room 7 is our climate justice sub-team of our social justice team. So that's during middle hour. Then, on Halloween weekend, so that's the 28th, whatever the Saturday is, next week from 5 to 7, we are having a Halloween party that is not just for children or for families, it is for everyone, which means we need 20 volunteers. So if you would like to volunteer to do things, whatever those things are, there is a sign-up sheet
In Kathy's head.
in Kathy's head. So if you are online, email Kathy. If you are in person, go tell Kathy, and you got to get... There's only 20 spots in her head, so you got to get there quick. The last thing we have, I don't actually know how many spots are in her head. I just thought that would be funny to say.
It's full.
How many spots are in your head?
I don't know. It's full now.
It's full. There goes the 20. Sorry, y'all.
No.
Oh, no.
I'll create 20.
There are 20 spots available in Kathy's brain to remember volunteers, but 21 on is done. So, all right. The last thing is yesterday, we had 490 years of Unitarian Universalist history represented in this sanctuary, which is a little obtuse way of saying representatives from every Unitarian Universalist church in the state of Louisiana was here yesterday. Shreveport, All Souls Unitarian Universalist Shreveport, is also represented here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Barbara, these are your people. Let's try it again, shall we?
All right.
I have heard rumor that there are Unitarian Universalists from the Dallas Cowboys portion of the state. Are you here?
No way!
All right, we got some energy in here, which is what we needed. Okay. All of this is to say we had a big old long day yesterday, and we are going to be joined today. Actually, you know one more interesting thing? The former president of our church, Sally Wood, is here. But she is the current president at All Souls. No, All Souls is going to get their chance to clap. Our current president, Jeff Gauger, is here. He is the former All right, All Souls, this is your chance to show everyone up. He is the former president at All Souls. All right, okay, enough. And Barbara Jarrell is joining me in the pulpit today. We are so glad you are here, and there's one other guest we have in the pulpit. Susan, how long have we known each other?
Oh, my Lord, how long?
Actually, 19 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Susan is the director of religious education at All Souls. Back when I was a DRE, she used to teach me how to do it. I mean, like they have trainings, and she was the teacher of it. So we called ourselves the young adult DREs, the Yadres. Susan and Kathy, would you like to offer our lesson today?
know what to do with the mic when it's that high. I am well used to being the shortest person on the chancel. It is delightful to have you here with me.
It is wonderful to be here, Kathy Smith. We've known each other a very long time, too.
Yeah. So this is a story. Sometimes I introduce stories by telling you that this is not a true story, but there's truth in it. This is actually a true story, a little bit fictionalized because it happened a really long time ago and we don't know all of the details. But this is a story. I will just go ahead and tell you the story. A long time ago, about the same time as George Washington, in England, there lived a little boy named John Murray. When he went to church, his minister told him about a scary place called hell, where there was fire and bad people were punished. John did not like those stories. They made him afraid. And when he played outside and saw the flowers and the birds and the squirrels and the bunnies, he thought that the world was a wonderful place and that God must be good and loving to have made such a wonderful world. But the stories about hell were still scary, especially since his own father told him that they were true, and at night he cried in bed, afraid that he might have done something bad, or maybe he would do something bad, and hell was such a terrible and scary place.
When John grew up, he got married to a woman named Eliza, who persuaded him to go with her to a Universalist church. At this church, the minister said that God loved everyone in the whole world, and that Jesus had said that God was like a good father to all people, not just a few. John and his wife knew that the Universalist idea of God was right and true for them. It had felt right to John since he was a little boy, and they were not afraid of hell anymore. John became a preacher and preached to people the Universalist message of a God who loves and cares for everyone, a God that people need not fear. John and his wife also had a baby. But then a very sad thing happened. John's wife and baby got very sick, and although he took them to different doctors and tried his best to help them, they both died. And John was so sad that he thought his heart would break, and he was afraid that God might be punishing him for being a Universalist.
He didn't have enough money to pay the doctor bills, and in those days, if you didn't have money to pay your doctor bills, you went to jail. When he got out of jail, he said he'd had it with England, and he set out for America. He got a job as the cargo manager on a ship called the Hand in Hand. The ship made it all the way across the Atlantic and was almost to New York when a great storm came up. It blew the ship off course, and it got stuck off of the coast of New Jersey. The ship was stuck in the sand. The only way to get unstuck was to simply wait for the wind to change. John Murray went ashore to find food and water. Instead, he found something there near the Jersey shore that really surprised him, a little church. He also found a man fishing. The man had caught a lot of fish. John.
I see you have a lot of fish, and we are stuck and running out of supplies. Could I maybe buy some fish and water from you?
I get the fish and water for free, so why should I take your money? Here.
Thank you so much, sir.
I would like to ask one thing of you, though, sir. Will you stay this evening and have a meal with me? I think we could have an evening full of interesting conversation.
Oh, sir, I would be honored to do that. Thank you. I would very much enjoy your company.
I can't read, but I have heard lots of stories from the Bible. I really like the stories about Jesus, especially the parts where he talks about how he loves everyone. But most of the preachers I've heard talk about an angry God who's ready to punish people for the slightest mistakes. That makes no sense to me.
I kind of know what you mean. I noticed a little building Outside? It looks like a church. Is that a church?
It is. I built it myself. I am waiting for a minister to come preach about a good and loving God. John, I think you might be the preacher I want to hear.
No. I am not a preacher.
Are you sure? Because you talk like a preacher. And you have a kind face. I think you might be the one.
Okay, I have to admit, I once was a preacher, but that is all in the past. I don't do that anymore.
But I am determined. Please preach in my church this Sunday. Don't disappoint me. I have waited so long.
I really can't do that. I have this job waiting for me in New York, and as soon as the wind changes, our ship and I have to leave.
The wind will never change until you preach in my church. Why not come this Sunday?
Okay. If the wind doesn't change and my ship is still here, I'll do it.
So the wind did not change. And on September 30th, 1770, John Murray preached a sermon about a forgiving and loving God. People wanted to hear more about God's love and less about God's anger. We do not have the text or the exact topic of that first sermon at Murray Grove, but we do have this fragment.
Go out into the highways and byways. Give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it and let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of people. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and the everlasting love of God.
So Friday I came back I went to New Orleans and we had a memorial service for a member of the church, Rebecca Cummings. She was interred with her father at Lake Lawn in Metairie. And we have some cards today to send to congregants. One we're going to send to Dick Haymaker, who is recovering after a brief hospitalization. And if you would place 2 stones, Kathy. One is we heard of the death of Mark Ott Jr., who is the son of a member of this church who died a few years ago. And also we heard about Angus Woodward's mother, who died this week, and we're placing a stone for her. This ritual we have is open to everybody, visitor and member alike. Those online, type it right into the chat. We invite those who wish to come forward either along the west or the east wall. Take a stone, let it be whatever is on your heart, whatever is keeping you from being fully present. Place it in the chalice bowl. We now invite those who wish to come forward as we place stones. And we say together, with hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is the symbol of the power of love.
One day, I was invited to take tea with a family of our congregation and pass the evening with a small number of friends. Being called to attend a wedding, I did not reach the house till near 10 o'clock. Instead of a few persons convened simply for an hour's conversation, there was a large company who danced. Now, if I had followed the advice of one of my instructors at Andover, I should have instantly retired rather than experience something so inconsistent with the dignity and seriousness of Christian life. But this cheerful company was visible only to the omniscient one. Before me stood the young and happy, upon whose fates and fortunes the somber shadows of adversity had not yet gathered. Their minds were bright and buoyant, their steps elastic, their ears opened to the melodies of sound, their eyes radiant with pleasure. As I was meditating upon the music and the sprightly conversation, with which characterized the whole scene in a sweet, profound, unwanted perception of God's goodness, captivated my soul. God is too good not to provide for us something nobler, better, greater, more permanent, and more satisfying than the transitory possessions and pleasures of time. Can God present to us the chalice of existence and then dash it from our lips just as we begin to taste its joys? Is it not God's infinite love a pledge that God will never treat us so cruelly? Can God awaken irrepressible desires of continued, unending happiness only to be crushed out and disappointed forever? If the Holy Spirit ever breathed in my heart, it was on that occasion, amid the music, thoughtlessness, levity, ceremonials, and sensuous attractions of an evening party. There, if ever, the inspiration of God touched and ennobled my soul.
Let's go ahead and sing. I invite you to rise up out of your spirit. Once again, for those Unitarian Universalists who are raised in the room, this is Forward Through the Ages. That has always been Forward Through the Ages. I don't know what this tune is otherwise.
Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirit at the call divine. Gifts in differing measure, hearts of one accord.
Today's service is on the future of Unitarian Universalism in the state of Louisiana. Is this loud enough? Do you want it up a little, or are you okay? Up a little, Robin, on this one. So this section of today's service, I'll walk you through sort of what brought us to here today. Then we'll talk about sort of where we are, and then Reverend Barbara Gerald, the minister at All Souls Shreveport, and I will each cast a vision for the future of Unitarian Universalism in Louisiana. I had hopes that other of our colleagues, of which we have 9 in this state, would offer their reflections as well, but unfortunately, none of them are serving Unitarian Universalist congregations in our state. In fact, Reverend Barbara, Chris, and myself are the only ones currently serving congregations in the state of Louisiana. And this has not always been the case. Even as of like 5-10 years ago, there were 7 UU ministers serving in congregations here. So here's where we stand as it relates to Unitarian Universalism in the state and this weekend in the church. The pandemic was hard on churches. It was hard on all of our churches. I don't know why some of us did better than others. I don't know why some of us are growing and some of us are shrinking. But all of us are trying to recover from that great horrific, whatever we want to call it, that we just went through these past 3 years. So because we knew that most all of us were struggling in this state, and that this state desperately needs Unitarian Universalism, yesterday we hosted a revival here. And we did that with a hope that we could cast a vision for the future of our faith in Louisiana. Now, most of the New Orleans churches in Alexandria and Lafayette, they went back because it was only like an hour drive. But Shreveport, they made a weekend of it. So they are here. But before we cast the vision, we have to know where we came from. Unitarian Universalism is the merger of 2 religions. Unitarianism, which is, and remember, this is a creedless religion, so this is our past. This is not the requirement of belief, because your belief is yours. But Unitarianism came out of the belief in one God, and Universalism came out of the belief in no hell. In 1833, and they merged together in 1961. So in 1833, the minister whose reading we just heard from, Parson Clapp is what we called him, he was a white Presbyterian minister from New England. He was a pro-slavery mess, but that's not for today. And he was sent to New Orleans to serve the Presbyterian church down there. And at a party, as his autobiography said, he saw how much fun the people of Louisiana were having. He saw, look, I got it written here. He saw how much fun the people were having at this party, and he decided there cannot be an angry, punishing God. He began preaching Universalism in his Presbyterian church, and the powers that be were not happy about it, so they kicked him out. And so he started his own church that he called the Church of the Stranger, where he was preaching Universalism in the 1830s. And at the time, William Ellery Channing, who was the president of the American Unitarian Association, sent an envoy down to New Orleans to see if they could start a church. And when they saw the Church of the Stranger, they said, well, this is good enough. Well, they didn't say good enough, but they said, we think this is a good church. Can we list you as a Unitarian church? And Parson Clapp said yes. So in the 1830s, 100 whatever years before merger, you had a Unitarian church preaching Universalism. That current church, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans, is one of the churches that is currently without a minister, and they announced recently that they're going to sell their building. That is the church and the building in which I heard my call to the ministry. They moved into the building in '94. It's not like a forever building, but it was one that was important to me. When I was a kid, I was raised on the North Shore at the North Shore Unitarian Universalist Society in Lacombe. It was a small but spunky church. They met in a geodesic dome. Lacombe has a rash of geodesic domes for some reason. I don't know why, but the church bought one of those. They had a full-time minister when I was a kid. And although I thought the church was doing pretty okay, I was the only youth at that church. And they had a sexuality education curriculum that predates our OWL called AYS. And they asked me if I wanted to take it, but I was the only teenager at the church. I did not. But my family started driving me to the New Orleans church so I could attend their youth group. And there were about 15 to 20 other youth who were there, and what, for me, someone who felt like an ideological and a religious outcast in my I don't know how many of you know Slidell, but it is not known to be the most progressive or accepting of all of the cities in Louisiana. I'm still working through my relationship with them as a city, but this church, those two churches were a place for me to feel okay being myself. And it also laid the groundwork for me to be a minister. There was another church in New Orleans. There's First Church and Community Church. They split over integration, but they both disagree about which side they were on. That's their discourse to work out. And then there's the one on the North Shore. There is a church in Shreveport, All Souls Unitarian Universalist. Well, I have more about them. There's also a 20-person fellowship in Lafayette and Alexandria. Now, I learned yesterday that the All Souls Church was founded because, am I right, that there was a couple who wanted to get married, but they were interfaith, and there was no place that would do their wedding. Am I right so far? Good. Jewish and Christian. And they got married, and they went up to Boston, and they ran into Unitarianism, and they said, this is really great. I wish Shreveport had a place like this. Right? Good. See? I remember things from yesterday. And so they started a church in Shreveport so that people could be themselves and be in relationships and be in love, right? I mean, that's where your church came from. Now, each congregation has its own particular histories, its own particular culture, its own views of the world and how to be Unitarian Universalist. Some of them did not like that we even called it worship yesterday while we were meeting. Each have their own leaders, their own peculiarities, but this weekend, we all came together to cast a vision for our faith in this state. So I'd like to invite the choir to come up. We're not talking about, come on up, the pledge drive today to give you all a break until next week when it officially ends, until we need all the pledges in. I will tell you, right now, the people who have given, on the whole spectrum, we have some 3-figure, a lot of 4-figure, and a few 5-figure givers. If everyone else gives at that same level of giving, we'll have $140,000 more than we budgeted, which is a ridiculous amount of money that we can do all sorts of really amazing stuff with. Also, the offering is not the pledge. The pledge, you fill out a pledge card, you put it in that box, and then we build a budget based off of what you say you're going to give us next year. The offering is a spiritual practice where we share half of it with Youth City Labs. First try, I got it. With Youth City Labs, so the whole month of October, and this is a 5-Sunday month, I believe, we're sharing it with them. They do amazing work in the community. So the offering is not the pledge drive. The offering is a giving of what we have right now. If you're a visitor, we are not asking you to give. If you feel moved, you can, but this is a work of the spiritual gathered, the congregation gathered. With that, and with the choir, I will now ask you to give very generously as this morning's offering is given and received. So if I wanted to sing that, just show up at a 6:30 on a Wednesday? Okay. Every Wednesday. Every single Wednesday. No matter what. Except for some of them? Oh, except for summertime. Well, you can still show up and sing. You just be with less people. Anyway, this Wednesday, 6:30, if you want to be a part of that. This is section 2 of the service, the state of things. Setting the stage for where we are as a faith, and then we will cast our vision for the future of Unitarian Universalism. As I alluded to earlier, many of our congregations are struggling. Our congregation is, the Baton Rouge congregation is struggling less, but we have also had, at least in our recent past, some more luck, resources, and less institutional and weather-related traumas than some of our other churches. I would love to tell you more about why the other congregations are struggling, but this is where it gets tricky for me. You see, my history is complicated with these churches because so many of them helped make me who I am. I want them to thrive, and I have to remember that them thriving is not my work. My work is here with you and this church. All that is relevant for worship today, all of this is relevant for the worship service today because you have to understand the state of doing the church in this country is difficult, and the state of doing church in this state is difficult. So congregations must always embrace the parts of a culture that are healthy and be countercultural to all the parts of the culture that are not. It is up to each congregation and each individual to do that discernment. So we all got together to figure out how to do it. As much as I love Louisiana, things are about to get really difficult here. First of all, in case you hadn't noticed from this horrible summer, it is likely that we are going to be living through more inhospitable summers, dangerous weather events, and overall, and other reasons for us to feel unsafe in this environment. Another thing also happened in the past few weeks, and I'm going to take an aside here to point out that the church must never, ever, ever become a tool of a political party. Any person running for political office is striving for the position that Pontius Pilate filled, and the church must always hold that person accountable. It doesn't matter who the person is or their political ideology. We as a congregation have a higher calling. Having said that, please remember also we have a mythology of who we are that does not match the reality of who is this congregation. We pretend that we are richer, more educated, with whiter collar jobs, and we are whiter and cisser and straighter than we actually are. And we like to pretend that we are much more politically liberal than we actually are. Theologically liberal is a whole different conversation, which we are, but politically liberal is just different, right? That is to say, we have members who likely voted for at least 6 candidates in the gubernatorial race. This congregation is not a monolith. And the person that our state and our congregation and our family and friends elected governor amassed some of his political power, making sure that trans children would not have access to books or medical care. That was his choice. He did not need to do that. So the setting for us as a religious people, a people struggling to come out of these awful times, is that it could not be more important that we are here. We are in a state that is heating up with a government that has promised to destabilize some of this state's residents who are already subject to all manners of violence, neglect, and harassment. We need Unitarian Universalism to thrive because this state needs a religion that said God lives within every human being, not just some. And that God is more important, that voice that pulls us towards love and justice is more important than any political operative or any elected official could ever be. Our call towards love, our call towards an environment that is not killing us, is a religious imperative. And it is an imperative that our faith, the religion that helped me know I was okay, in a city that told me over and over again that I was sinful and wicked and corrupt, that religion needs to thrive in this state. And that is why this congregation hosted that revival. It is why we had almost 40 people, not including our own, many of whom drove in for hours, some giving up their day or their entire weekend to be together so that we can do what we need to do to make this faith strong in our state.
For all of us, gather in, please.
I will not be afraid, for I know my hope it is justified. I know revelation still unfolds. I will not be ashamed. I will open my soul to the mystery beyond my control. The love that makes this broken world whole. There is only so far down the road a body can see. I will do what's mine and move on. Speaking truth with love to powers ever greater than me. With compassion, I'll be where I belong. I will not be afraid, for I know my hope it is justified. I know revelation still unfolds. I will not be ashamed. I will open my soul to the mystery beyond my control. The love that makes this broken world whole. Not afraid of a love that makes the whole world whole.
Thank you. I believe one thing all of our congregations have in common is that we hold love as our standard, the ground we're built on. It's nothing. I have a song that says, I can love more. And in the chorus or the bridge, it says, it's nothing weak or geeky, mushy or dumb. It's the only way our human spirits can overcome. Can you believe the divisions we see around us? If love is our standard, if love is our ground, and if we who struggle mightily to be as inclusive as we possibly can, to understand as many differences and bridge as many chasms as we can find a way to do, if we are not the ones who hold the space for the healing between these divisions, who in the world is going to do it? Nobody says that's going to be easy, and nobody says we even know how yet to do it. But I'm begging you, as Unitarian Universalists and people who believe in love and believe in inclusion and believe that revelation is ongoing and that those visions and the information we need is still out there waiting to find us, I'm begging you to keep in your heart that that's our job. It's our job. Because, as John Lewis said, if not us, then who? And if now, then when? We don't know what's going to happen. Things will work out, maybe not so that humans survive it, but things will work out somehow. And if we are to be part of solutions, we have to believe solutions are possible. We're going to do one more song.
There's no way to tell from here what only time makes clear. Elements far and near in play. Oh,
Maybe I shouldn't go last. My future for Unitarian Universalism in the state of Louisiana is complicated. I know what I want to tell you. I want to tell you that in every city, from Pierre Part to Bogalusa to Ruston to Eunice, that it will have a bustling Unitarian Universalist presence. I want to tell you that there will not be any resident in this state who does not know intrinsically that they are born worthy of love, that reason and doubt can make their faith stronger, and that they have a religious obligation to demand justice from their government and any corporation who locates in their city. I envision a world where 4.6 million Louisianians know that they are loved, that they are okay to be who God made them to be. And if that language makes you uncomfortable, I mean that you are able to be, through rigorous discernment and through listening to that deep voice within, the person you've always known you were supposed to be. However, we are not there yet, nor do I think we will be there in the next few years. Many of our congregations are small and some are precarious, but they are fierce. The short-term trajectory of Unitarian Universalism is damaged, this congregation included. We had a freeze a few years ago. My Satsuma trees did not do so well. One of them died altogether, but we're going to ignore that for the metaphor. One of them was fine for some reason, and one of them died all the way down to the graft. And so I cut it off, and it looked like just a tree stump. And for years, it grew back slowly and surely. This year, it has one Satsuma on it. But that stump has been completely consumed by the growth. There's only like a little belly button looking part left. In other words, some of our churches may not be ready to grow fruit just yet. But this state has long roots in this faith that are strong. And that means with proper care, we will have flowering everywhere soon. Unitarian Universalism has never grown because of the ministers. I was in College Station last week. They did an installation on their new building in College Station, Texas. As someone who is married to someone who went to UT, I apologize for being there. That's more of a Texas thing, so anyway. But they were retelling the story of the history of their church. And there were 10 people gathered in a living room trying to figure out if they had enough money to start up a church. And they passed around notes, little sheets of paper, then they wrote down how much they could afford to give to make this church exist. And when they totaled those numbers up, they did not have enough money for a church. So they passed the papers around again. And they asked everyone to think again how much money they had that they could give to the church. And when they totaled those papers, they had enough to build a church. Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Community Church, North Shore, Lafayette, and Alexandria, and all of those started as fellowships in the 1950s. All of those congregations started because 10 or so people sat in a room together and said that this life-saving faith is important. We're clergy around sometimes, but we were not the ones who made this thing happen. And it was not even the presidents of the congregations. Our faith, which flies in the face of ideologies that were elected into office this last week, thrives because individuals do their own work to figure out how to be welcoming, how to be loving, how to be kind, how to bring people towards a greater understanding and towards justice in their personal lives. When you come to church and you get out of your own way and you make space for new people, and you make space for new ideas and make space for loving something larger than ourselves, that is how our faith grows. Sometimes it happens because of miracles, like in that John Murray story. Sometimes it happens because someone just goes to a party and finds out how good it is to be alive. Sometimes it happens because people just want to love each other, and we build institutions to make that happen. It will be a few tough years in the state of Louisiana. It may be many tough years. But we have been through much worse. And through us doing the work to love each other, to love our neighbor as ourselves, and to love ourselves, this message, regardless of the number of people who are in a church, This message that holds the status quo accountable for the damage that it does, this message that says you are worthy just as you are, this message will and always will thrive. All of this is to say that no matter what the world throws at us, if you, the visitors and members of this church, do your work, keep your heart turned towards a greater love, more than a rigid or a regressive theology, then those theologies will crumble. When I think about my town and all of the people who told me all kinds of awful things about who I was allowed to be and not allowed to be, I just feel sad that we have churches and political parties, and I'm not calling out one political party in this instance, that deal with the pain of being told that they were not allowed to be who they were when they were children, and they want to push that onto everyone else. This religion will thrive in this state not because of any of the ones you see up here on the chancel, except for maybe Kathy, because she's not on staff. It thrives because you go out into the world and you love people so much that they can let go of any of the hatred that is settled on their heart. Amen. Let's sing.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend the fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the world. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend the fire. Known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the world. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear.
And the stakes are very high. Take courage, for there is another truth. You are not alone. Go in peace. Go in love. Amen.